Hey guys, it's David from Gigi's Fabric Shop, home of Juki and Junkies. And in today's video, we have a DX computerized sewing machine that we're going to go over how to lubricate it. And this is going to apply to pretty much all the Juki computerized sewing machines, whether it's travel machine, F series, or the DX models, it's going to apply to it. So let's get into this video. Some of the things I want to note right off the bat is the computerized sewing machines really don't need any oil. It's more of like a light lubrication that you can do at home. But really, you should just bring it in for a detailed service once every year or once every 2 years, kind of depending on how much you're using your machine, and that should be pretty much all the maintenance you need to do. I'm going to kind of show you what I would do as a home user to kind of help clean your machine / lubricate it to ensure that you have a healthy running computerized sewing machine. So the things we'll be using in this video is some cleaning swabs, which these are amazing. They're like, I don't know, like a microfiber material, and they do a really good job at collecting the lint and debris and holding it onto the tip so you can pull it out versus just brushing it around like the sewing machine brushes that they come with. So definitely check these out. We'll have a link in the description. We're gonna be using a Juki oiling pen, which these are really cool. They're new, and you twist off this cap and you can drop one little drop of oil onto your desired location. And then we're going to also be using a small little T-screw to remove those flatheads, and that's pretty much it. I do have a bottle of oil, but this is kind of more just for the thumbnail. You really won't need a huge bottle of oil unless you don't have any oil, then you might need some oil. So there's that you can refill the oiling pen. So now that we have all the things we're going to be using in this video, let's get a little bit closer to this machine and start showing you what I would recommend doing to your computerized sewing machine. Okay, so now that we're over here in the stitch plate area, the first thing I want to do is go ahead and remove my foot, which we can just tap that little button, remove that foot, and also remove that needle, because we definitely don't want to get poked with the needle while we're working on the machine and trying to make it happier. We can also remove all the thread on the machine, making sure that none of the thread is there, and we're also going to turn off the machine. The next step is we're going to use our little T-screw to go ahead and break these little flat screws on the stitch plate. It's important to note, if you have a DX or an F series model, you want to make sure your stitch plate is in jelly bean mode or decorative stitch mode, where it's not in straight stitch mode. And there's going to be a small little warning sticker right here on your machine. So just to kind of keep a reminder, you don't want to remove it in straight stitch mode, so make sure you have that in the decorative stitch mode before removing the stitch plate. And then you can just use your finger to twist it off a little bit faster. Once we get that stitch plate removed, it's important to make sure that you lift it up and then kind of lift up that foot and just lightly take it off. Good time to inspect that stitch plate for any burrs. If there's any burrs, major burrs or anything like that, you definitely want to either try to file it down or replace the stitch plate. That can cause a lot of issues with your machine, which more information on that in the description. We'll post a little video called Skip Stitching, and we'll talk about what burrs on your stitch plate and bobbin case can cause and all those issues. The next thing we're going to want to do, and of course this is kind of just like a maintenance, we want to always make sure that we take off that stitch plate. A lot of sewers I see out there never take off their stitch plate, and this is kind of what their machines look like when I take it off. You want to grab all this lint, take off those stitch plates after every big project, and use your cleaning swabs to grab the lint and brush it out or kind of get it stuck to it. This one's kind of being stubborn. Make sure if you have a computerized machine, you're being gentle. You don't want to push things down into places. So right now I would probably grab a pair of tweezers and kind of grab this stuff, because this lint is being a little bit stubborn and removing. And then also you want to make sure that you're not pushing down on areas such as like little circuit boards and things like that, because especially if you're like have the DX4000 or the NX7, there's a lot of sensitive parts on those boards, so you definitely don't want to touch that area too much. You just kind of want to get everything around it. And then now would be a good time to go ahead and remove that bobbin case. Take that bobbin case out and do the same thing with that brush. Kind of just brush around in this area, making sure that all the lint and debris is removed. One thing to note is this little fuzzy here is actually supposed to be on the machine. That's for the cutter, so if it looks like a little brush, you definitely want to leave that there. But you also want to remove all the little extra threads. Grab any lint that's in there. Now that we removed all the lint and debris, we got the bobbin case out, we got all that stuff cleaned up. A nice little feature you can do is you can tilt your machine back, just like this. And on the bottom of your machine, there's going to be two little screws, one there and one there. You can use your T-screw to go ahead and remove this. And this is just a little extra step. You don't really have to do this. But if you remove this here, you can access a little bit more lint and debris. So we're going to go ahead and remove that and show you what it looks like. So now that we have that bottom cover off, you can kind of just inspect in this area, and you can also use a small little compressed air and just kind of blow down from the hook area, the bobbin case area, and blow some lint out from here, or you can blow from this direction. Just make sure you don't mess with any of the springs. You don't want any of those coming off. And like I said, you don't have to do this step, but this is just a little extra step. And this is all stuff that you could probably do once every few months, kind of depending on how much you sew. But this would be a good way to do some preventive maintenance in between your actual big cleanings by a professional. And during those big cleanings that the professional does, they're going to be taking off pretty much all the plastics on your machine and lubricating and adding grease and all that kind of stuff to all the gears that you can't really access. So we're going to go ahead and put these 2 screws in the bottom back on, and we'll get back to where we're going to lubricate it. Okay, so the first spot that I'm going to lubricate on my computerized sewing machine is this little needle bar right here. You can see that there's a little fuzzy right there. It might be hard to see, but it's just right here. And all you have to do is really just drop one little drop of oil with your needle dropping pen or oiling pen, and just drop one little drop right there, and then just kind of move it around a little bit, and then do another drop. So that way it looks like it's just lightly lubricated. You don't want to do too much because you don't want oil dripping down onto your sewing material, so just do a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. When you get your machine serviced, they'll probably look at that and see if it needs any, but only add oil there if it looks like it's necessary. If it's super, super dry, add a drop or two and you should be good to go. And here is another little linty brush right here, right next to the needle threader or needle bar area. You don't want to remove that. That's actually part of the machine, so you don't want to remove that. Leave that there. Just drop a little drop on that little swab right there, and that's all you need to do. Okay, so now that we have the machine turned around, we're going to be looking at the presser foot bar. If your presser foot bar is super, super dry, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and put a little bit of oil on this swab and just kind of wipe it down and give it a nice little shine. That just kind of helps lubricate it a little bit. And like I said, a little protective oil on metal is never a bad idea. You don't need to do a ton. You don't want it to drip down on your materials or anything. But if you haven't done this in a long time, it's never a bad idea to do this also to your needle bar while you're at it. Even though we dropped a little bit of oil on that swab, it's never a bad idea to just do a nice little wipe on those metal surfaces. Just kind of helps give it a little protective coating and also make it run a little bit smoother. Okay, the next step for lubricating this machine is I like to just do little drops of oil with my oiling pen onto a cleaning swab, a clean one of course. Just like this, you can see that it's kind of changing colors there. It's got a little bit of oil on there. And then this is the bobbin case, of course. Now's a good time to inspect it for any burrs or needle punctures. Of course, if there is some, try to file it down or order a new bobbin case. Link in the description for a video on how to kind of do all that kind of stuff with your bobbin case. Now that we have this swab with a little bit of oil on it, Juki doesn't tell you have to do this, but if you want to do it, it can make your machine a little quieter. This little ledge to this bobbin case goes around on this basket of the sewing machine very, very fast, and it can dry it out and cause it to be a little louder than when it's brand new. So what you can do is drop a little bit of oil on a swab and just kind of lightly, or you can use your finger even and put some oil on your finger, just lightly kind of brush it into the edge or the rim of this bobbin case, just like so. So you can see it has like a light little oil residue on there. And what that's going to do is it's kind of just allow your bobbin case to, we're going to reinstall it here. When it sits on that little lip or the ledge of your basket, when it's rotating really, really fast, it's going to be a lot quieter and smoother, so that way you don't hear the dryness of that bobbin case. And since it's plastic on metal, you don't have to lubricate it, but it definitely helps make it a little quieter. Another thing you can do while you're in this area with that bobbin case removed is drop a little bit of oil on that swab like we already did, and just do a light little brush and sweep with that oil around this hook area. You can wipe it around kind of this whole entire area, just nice and light and not too much. You don't want to coat it with a ton of oil, but just a light wiping kind of just will make this whole area a little bit lubricated, so when it's moving really, really quick, it's not going to be making a ton of noise. You can go ahead and do that. You can also kind of just turn this hook area and just kind of do the outside edge a little bit. It kind of also gives it a nice little shine, prevents it from any surface rust starting or anything like that. Not that they ever rust, but it's never a bad idea, especially if you leave this in a garage or something like that. It's a good idea to have a little coating of lubricant on any metal parts. So now we can go ahead and reinstall our bobbin case. In doing so, you kind of want to just have that little lip right there bouncing off that little stopper and make sure it's nice and flush on both ends. You can kind of push down. And you should also kind of feel it kind of just click into place. So we're going to take it out, putting it back in. Boom. Should click nice in place. It shouldn't move. It should be in place like that. Now we can go ahead and put that stitch plate back on. Doing so, we want to make sure that we're in the right mode, Jelly Bean. Put that on. If you have the DX4000, of course, watch the stitch plate video. I'll link that in the description so you can watch that. Installing your stitch plates a little differently. And now we're going to just go ahead and drop our faceplate screws back in here. And you can just tighten these down with your finger, and then you can go back and tighten it down fully with the T-screw. So how often should we be doing this little maintenance / lubrication service to your machine? Well, my recommendation is after every big project, at least take your stitch plate off and kind of clean up that area, because like I said, oftentimes people just never take their stitch plate off and lint builds up, and that can cause a lot more damage than doing any of the light lubrication we did in this video. And like I said, you really don't have to lubricate this machine at all, especially if you're bringing it in for a service once every year to 2 years, really, depending on how much you're using it. So take that for what it's worth. The biggest thing that I like to stress is taking that stitch plate off, making sure there's not a ton of lint buildup in there, and cleaning it up a little bit. Take that bobbin case out, cleaning that area a little bit. That's going to be the most important thing to do. How often should you be getting this machine serviced? I would recommend once every year if you're sewing often, and once every 2 to 3 years if you're not sewing all that often. It's not all that important on a computerized machine, since pretty much everything doesn't really need all that much oil. So take that for what it's worth. If you have any questions, comment them down below. Give us a like if you enjoy this video, and hit that subscribe button because we post every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're also starting to post a little bit more on Junkies here soon, where we're going to be talking about embroidery machines more in depth. So definitely go subscribe to Junkies, as there's going to be tons of videos getting posted there as well that'll apply to pretty much all sewers. So definitely check out Junkies and hit the subscribe button on Junkies if you enjoyed this video. We'll see you next Sunday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great day.